In 2020, Southwark Coroner's Court ruled that air pollution made a material contribution to the death of 9-year-old Ella Adukisi-Deborah. That was a landmark decision. Ella had lived near to the South Circular in Lewisham, and she would have been just 21 years old this year, 21. A life tragically cut short, and a reminder that social justice is a huge issue in the area of air pollution, with children from lower income communities living in locations where their health suffers disproportionately from air pollution. So XR Wandsworth is asking that Wandsworth Council takes measures before the next local elections in May to improve air quality by effectively disincentivising car use. Oh, I've got louder all of a sudden. Disincentivising car use and car spreading while expanding safe pedestrian and cycle infrastructure. And as an example of our demands, one of the things that we're asking about is measures to include emissions and weight-based parking fees. Now, these polluter pays parking charges have been introduced already in the London boroughs of Lambeth, Newham, Croydon, Lewisham, Merton, Harrow, Hammersmith and Fulham, even in Westminster. The list goes on, but not yet in Wandsworth. So what's that all about? So, Wandsworth Council, it's time for you to step up on that. Why not write to your councillor and suggest that they do the right thing, even if they do own a bungalow-sized SUV in their street outside? Enough from me. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to introduce our speakers, who between them have got a wealth of knowledge and expertise to share. So first of all, Daisy is 16 years old and is already a founder of an organisation called Generation 1.5, which I have to say makes me feel like a tremendous underachiever. So over to you, Daisy.
Well, thank you. Hi, I'm Daisy. So in January, I was feeling really lost and worried because climate disasters and gross injustices were happening all around me. Yet I felt really powerless to do anything about it. I realized that other people my age must feel the same way. I just had to find them. So we are Generation 1.5 Degrees, a youth climate justice action group aiming to build a community of young people willing to organise and take action to make our voices and the ones of marginalised and oppressed groups heard. Our demands to the government are simple. We just want to be able to trust them. To trust that they will act on the science. To trust that they will enact climate justice now with the urgency it requires. And to trust that they will safeguard our futures. I truly believe in the power of young people to create change, as we are united by a collective fear of what our future will look like, and anger about the mass destruction that kids just like us experience on a daily basis. Children in the global south, who are least responsible for the climate crisis, are suffering in extreme weather and climate disasters facilitated by our own government. This is a clear violation of human rights and an act of violence. So how can we trust that government with our futures when they consistently prioritise wealth over the lives of children around the globe? We are the generation that will inherit a future our government has failed to protect, where the 1.5 degree limit has been passed and billions more die. As members of this generation, we have a duty to protest and take action for climate justice with the urgency required. It is vital that we continue to put pressure on the government to meet these demands, as their decisions and policies will ultimately affect us and our futures. If you're a young person, join us. And if you're not, continue to listen to us and take action to protect all our futures. For our futures.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Daisy. Brilliant. Next, I'm going to introduce Dr. Pete Knapp, who is an air quality researcher, scientist, and filmmaker, and he's wearing a white coat.
Thank you. I say clean, you say air. Clean, clean, clean. That's right. That's what we're all here, right? Now, my name is Dr. Pete Knapp. I've got a PhD in air quality from Imperial, and we're all here to celebrate the demand for safer cycling in our community and remind ourselves of how many people all feel the same way. It is by coming together that we feel that our voices may be heard. It takes courage to cycle in London. It shouldn't. SUV drivers bully other road users, and I stopped cycling because I was nearly killed by one. But let's talk about air pollution. There are two main types of air pollution from road traffic. Firstly, gases, like nitrogen dioxide that come out of the exhausts. So these gases have been reduced through regulation, through ULEZ, and these push for electric vehicles does aim to reduce those gases too. But none of these measures actually reduce car traffic. And the particles from tyres, from brakes and resuspension all come into the air when cars drive over the roads. And this is the second source of air pollution. Road dust is a big problem. One particle can be repeatedly kicked up into the air, and that causes air pollution. The more traffic that we have, the more of these particles will be in the air, and the more that we send end-of-life tyres to places like India, where they are burnt and create great plumes of air pollution in other countries. The World Health Organization guideline for particles is 5 micrograms per cubic meter. That's in total. But in dry conditions, resuspended road dust can be 20 micrograms per cubic meter. That's 4 times over the WHO guideline from just resuspended road wear. So reducing road traffic is the real solution. It reduces particle pollution, road traffic deaths, noise pollution, overconsumption, and inequality. The congestion zone has reduced traffic by 18%. It's increased bus travel by 33%. Electric vehicles are currently exempt from these areas, but to the delight of cyclists, they too will be charged from December 2025. The closure of Hammersmith Bridge has also been successful in reducing traffic over the Thames, where no other bridge has seen increases in road traffic. That's a really critical point. Making this a cycling bridge would be an immense success for London's air quality and community. We have to be mindful that some people require cars, mainly due to disability and trade. We should not alienate these people. But they are ultimately the winners in a world where we have reduced traffic. We have common ground with these people. We are all united to achieve the same the same rules, the same overall aims. Now, I've got finally just some points, some ideas to reduce road traffic and the air pollution that it creates. Improve cycling infrastructure. Support expansion of congestion charges. Support school streets campaigns, support pedestrianisation of high streets, support tradespeople who use bikes, support car sharing schemes, free public transport pass for employees and charging for parking at work, restrict parking spaces, support cargo bikes on-street parking and subsidies, and my personal favourite, ban car advertising. You say clean, I say air.
Clean.
Air.
Clean. Clean. Clean.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, please. And next we have Sharon Erdman, who's volunteer coordinator at the amazing Mums for Lungs. And trust me, you don't want to mess with Mums for Lungs. Sharon.
What an introduction. Yeah, I'm Sharon. Lovely to see you all. And yeah, I'm the volunteer coordinator with Clean Air campaign group Mums for Lungs. And we believe that air pollution is a public health crisis and that our politicians are not doing enough to tackle it. We're campaigning for clean air for everyone, but particularly children and babies as soon as possible. We work with volunteers around London and across the country in Birmingham, Manchester and Nottingham campaigning for change. And I'll tell you why we call this a public health crisis, in particularly in children's health. We know that exposure to air pollution is the second leading risk factor for death in children under 5, both in the UK and globally. We know that air pollution adversely impacts human health throughout our lives. And we know that children are especially vulnerable to air pollution because they inhale more air, for their body weight, and because they are lower to the ground and closer to where the vehicle exhausts are, and breathe more pollution for that reason. And we also know that this is a social justice issue. So we know that children from the most deprived backgrounds suffer disproportionately adverse health outcomes from breathing dirty air. So all this we know, and all this everyone knows, or politicians know, and yet we do not see any urgent action to protect our children. At Mums for Lungs, we focus on 4 key campaigning areas: the national implementation of air quality targets in line with those recommended by the World Health Organization for healthy lives, the phasing out of diesel vehicles, which we know to be disproportionately polluting our air, the phasing out of wood burning, domestic wood burning, as a secondary heat source, which is now a leading source of dangerous particulate matter, and the widespread implementation of school streets to protect our children's health at critical times of their day when we know they are commonly exposed to very high levels of toxic air. So we all know that for us to reduce traffic emissions, we also need everyone to be making as many of those shorter journeys, such as the school run, by active travel means, by walking, scooting and cycling. And we all know, and I'm sure from your experience today, that for families to make that change, they need to feel safe on the streets, walking and cycling. Air pollution is up to 3 times higher inside a vehicle than outside. So active travel is always the healthier choice, but it needs to be the safe choice for many. Mums for Lungs is a member of the SUV Alliance, and we know that these larger vehicles, which are more polluting and more dangerous to other road users, are fast becoming the norm in many of our neighbourhoods. Again, children are especially vulnerable, and recent research showed that children under 10 face a 130% increased risk of death if hit by an SUV over a conventional sized vehicle. So we strongly advocate for the changes that XR Wandsworth are asking for, and nationally around local policy charges that target these vehicles and the expansion of these vehicles. So thank you for listening to me. And lastly, I just would like to say that we do have an active Wandsworth group campaigning and working locally. And if you'd like to join us, you'd be very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Okay, next we have David James. There's David, there he is, who's joint coordinator of the South West London Greenpeace group and a committed Greenpeace activist.
But before I begin, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the organisers of the bike ride, and particularly to the stewards who made sure that we got here safely. Thank you. My name is David. I'm a joint coordinator of the Greenpeace South West London group. There are about 50 or so groups scattered across the country. Greenpeace as an organisation operates at the local level, at the national level, and at the international level. And Greenpeace South West London are the local group around here. We're the foot soldiers who act to support Greenpeace's wider campaigns, both nationally and internationally. We do a lot of public engagement. For example, we go out to stalls on various farmers markets, and we also get involved in some low-risk activities, stickering and postering late at night. If we look at plastics, for example, at the local level, we promote the Big Plastics Count. This takes place every year and is a really important survey of plastic waste in the UK. And from the work we did, we know that, for example, about half of the UK's plastics is incinerated. Going up to the national level, we tend to take action against the fossil fuel companies in particular. You might have seen in the last couple of weeks pictures of our climbers dropping banners off the Forth Road Bridge. It was a really spectacular action. And that was aimed at stopping a tanker from going up to a petrochemical plant in Grangemouth. And that fed into the international level where we're pushing for a very strong global plastics treaty. For me personally, to bring it right down to the local level, I've been out before the last election. I was out knocking on doors. I've spent many a time on a market stall trying to persuade people in the driving rain to sign a petition. I've been involved in stickering and postering activities, often very late at night, which is also sort of very, very subversive. I once occupied an oil products terminal in Essex to stop an oil tanker from unloading Russian oil. So the huge range of activities there. But my overriding, I would say, lesson from all of these things is the importance of teamwork. And every single person within those teams has had a critical role to play and has been critical in the success of those actions. And it's because of this strong belief that by working together, we can actually create more than the sum of our parts, that we, South West London Greenpeace, are sort of fully behind XR Wandsworth in its demands of Wandsworth Council to reduce air pollution, to green Wandsworth, and to develop those environmental disaster response plans. Before I end, I'd like to just get in the advertising slot. If you'd like to know more about us, we have a monthly meeting in the Sun Pub in Clapham Common, 7:30, Tuesday, 3rd of September, in the room upstairs. Come along.
Next speaker is Celia Duncan from the Wandsworth Cycling Campaign.
Every year, more than 50 people are killed or seriously injured cycling in Wandsworth. And in the last 12 months, 2 people have lost their lives just trying to get around the borough on a bike. Last November, Dean Jones was 27, cycling to meet friends in Putney when he was killed by a lorry driver turning left across him into a residential street which has a major secondary school on it, but is also a very busy rat run. In Tooting, there's a cluster of roads that have the distinction of being the most dangerous junction in the whole of London for cycling. And it's not because it's a main road, it's because drivers are cutting across the main road in a hurry from one set of residential streets to the other side. So we want Wandsworth Council to follow people like Hackney, Islington, Southwark, Lambeth, and to filter residential streets. So we're talking low traffic neighbourhoods, livable neighbourhoods, clean air neighbourhoods if you're in Hammersmith and Fulham, or child safe zones is a term I've now seen used. It doesn't really matter what you call them, they work. Because we now have all the data from all the neighbourhoods that have been filtered in this way across London. And what happens is you halve the casualty rate in that neighbourhood. You halve the casualty rate because you halve the volume of motor traffic. And contrary to public perception, the boundary road traffic stays the same. The reason that happens, people think, well, that's not possible. Where's the traffic going to go? So the reason that happens is that the people who are making short car journeys shift and start walking and cycling. They do this because it now becomes more convenient. It's more pleasant, and crucially, it's now safe to walk or cycle in those areas. And also, their neighbourhood becomes a much more pleasant place to live. So Wandsworth, the majority of households, 53% of households in Wandsworth do not have a car. Cycling is a healthy, fun, sustainable, efficient and cheap way of getting around. Please make it safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Celia. Before we move on to our next speaker, I just wanted to say a few words about someone known to many of us, Steve Smith, a fellow member of Extinction Rebellion Wandsworth, who sadly passed away earlier this month. Steve cared deeply about the environment, and he and his wife Pat would often turn up to events like this together on their bikes, laden with flags, banners, tasty snacks, and even a stall for those of us who weren't quite as fit as they are. His passion was cycling. He rode everywhere. He helped people fix their bikes. He wanted more cycle lanes. He wanted cleaner air, all the benefits that cycling has for our physical and our mental health. It seems particularly sad that we should be holding a mass cycle ride in Wandsworth without him. We'll all miss him, and our thoughts are with Pat and their daughters at this terribly difficult time. So I just wanted to say those few words about Steve. Okay, moving on. Our next speaker is Jo Taylor, fellow member of Axtell Wandsworth, who was the Green Party parliamentary candidate for Battersea in the 2004 general election.
2024, wasn't it? Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the Green Party, I guess, and it's an exciting time for the Green Party. We've got a new team locally in Wandsworth, and we're going to have a new leadership team nationally as well, that I really hope will be able to change the conversation and have more of an impact in the media and the social media nationally. So excited about that. I also consider myself part of Axtell Wandsworth, but I haven't been around it so much recently. But I just wanted to pay tribute to everyone from Axtell Wandsworth. It's a fantastic group. Some of the other Axtell groups have fallen by the wayside a little bit over the years, but Axtell Wandsworth has carried on and gone from strength to strength. And it's so great to see so many people out here today demonstrating for clean air. And in general, I think a lot about theories of change, and I'm sure everyone here would like to see London become one of those great European cities like Paris or Copenhagen or Amsterdam, where you can travel really easily by public transport or by bike or by foot, and you can still get around by car if you need to. He pointed out there are some people who do need to use cars, but we want London to become one of those places, right, where everyone can get around by active travel and public transport. And when I think about how we get there, I really think community is so important, and we need more events like this. We need more people coming out. So thank you so much to everyone who's come along today and participated in this event. I'm an activist because I'm a parent. My kids were going to come today, but they didn't quite get ready in time. But what I want more than anything is for them to be able to live a long life on a livable planet. And on a smaller scale, something else that's been talked about here, I'd really like my daughter to be able to cycle to school safely. She's going to be going to secondary school in a year's time. And we've got such a long way to go for that to happen, haven't we? Just to return to the topic of community. Thank you everyone for participating in this. I really think community is the most important thing for me now. It's going to soften the blow of whatever's coming down the line in terms of the climate. And it also seems to me like the best way of protecting against the rise of the far right, which is, and those are the two twin threats for me that we face right now. So thank you very much, everyone. Keep at it. Keep fighting for clean air and for community.
Brilliant. Well, sorry about that mistake. It was parliamentary candidate for Battersea in the 2024 general election. Next up, we've got Carolyn Axtell, who's the curbside greening manager of the organisation Possible.
Hi everyone, thanks for the invitation to Axtell. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Can you put your hand up if you're already aware of Possible's work? Okay, so there's quite a few that haven't come across us before. So we are a climate action charity supporting ordinary people to take positive action on climate, and we work on a whole range of different areas from aviation, fixing factories, and lots of work on transport, including things like low traffic neighbourhoods and school streets and all the things we've been hearing about today. And in particular, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the importance of green infrastructure and parking policy when it comes to taking action on climate. So obviously increasing tree canopy, particularly in areas that have got the worst urban heat island effect, can make a really significant difference in terms of reducing temperatures and improving the walkability of our streets, which is obviously becoming more and more important, because I think everybody knows that the rise, the climate's the heat waves are becoming obviously more and more frequent, and we're all feeling that in our daily lives. And the Mayor of London says he's committed to increasing London's tree canopy by 10% by 2050. But the problem is finding space to put the trees, because actually there isn't the space on many footways to plant trees, and it's often in those neighbourhoods where pavements are narrowest, and where deprivation is highest and the urban heat island effect is the worst, that there isn't anywhere to put trees except in the curbside. So what we're talking about is replacing car parking with street trees, and we've got a project working to do that in a couple of London boroughs. So we're going to be publishing an interactive map soon, which will enable people to actually look at their areas to see which are the areas that most need street trees in place of car parking, in order to make our streets more livable in those, as the climate heats up. So in terms of what the council could be doing that it's not doing, it could certainly update its parking policy to make it more progressive. As Pat's already mentioned, a lot of other policies are already levying parking surcharges on higher emission vehicles and especially diesel vehicles. And Lambeth next door are considering surcharges for SUVs in response to demand from residents. And we'd also like to see more controlled parking. Why does Wandsworth only have 2/3 of the streets that it's got control of with controlled parking zones? That's pretty poor for an inner London borough. And for anyone that follows the Health and Street scorecard, Wandsworth actually dropped down 2 places in the Health and Street scorecard this year. It's also really important to have more curbside strategies and community parklets policies. Lambeth, as we know, is committed to allocating 25% of its curbside for sustainable uses, and we would like to see that happening in every borough. We'd like to see more restriction of pavement crossovers to prevent people from paving over their front gardens and increasing flood risk in those areas vulnerable to flooding. And also the biodiversity corridors mentioned in the XR demands. We would also like to see more of that, linking up green spaces through pollinator corridors, like the Hackney Buzz Line, for example, by having more planting areas in between parks and commons. And in terms of what you guys can do, we've got an action you can take on clean air. You can scan the QR code that's on the desk here, and that'll give you a template to send to the Mayor of London. And we also have lots of right to councillor tools on everything from school streets, low traffic neighbourhoods, clean air, street trees, all kinds of things, and they're really easy to use. So I would have a look at those. Have a look at our vision for car-free tooting that we made with local residents from Tooting a few years ago as well. You'll probably find it hard to recognise. And you can also input into London's heat delivery plan that's being developed at the moment, asking for street trees to be prioritised as a curbside measure. I think that's everything for me. If anybody wants to know more about possible, do come up and have a word with me afterwards. Back to you, Pat.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Possible, amazing organisation. Next, we have Dr. Veena Aggarwal, who's GP in Battersea and co-chair of the Royal College of GPs Climate and Sustainability Group. Veena.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. I'm loving the title, really good. It's lovely. I'm going to keep this brief because I know we've had a lot of talks. So I just want to talk a bit about health, because air pollution and health are so closely linked. As has been mentioned before, we have 4,000 deaths a year in London alone from air pollution, and nationally it's very, very high. And this is a major issue, and I think a lot of people are aware that air pollution impacts on the lungs, but it is not just the lungs. Actually, the heart is more impacted than the lungs by air pollution. And it's not only a chronic thing, so day-to-day exposure to air pollution increases the build-up of plaques in the heart, but also on days when the air pollution spikes, we have an increased rate of heart attacks, we have strokes, we have asthma attacks. So I think when we talk about air pollution, it's just really important to keep the health message there, because everybody cares about health, right? Whether they drive an SUV or they ride a bike, everybody cares about their health. So I think that's just a good way of keeping everybody kind of in the same room on that. The WHO has declared air pollution a global health emergency.
But there is some good news, not to just be too depressing, but the ULEZ has worked, right? There were some articles recently saying that the number of asthma attacks has gone down by 20%. The rates of these dangerous chemicals, I think it's PM 2.5 and is it NO, nitrous oxide, have reduced massively due to the ULEZ. So whilst individual behaviour is important, it's also policy, isn't it? It's both together. So as a doctor, what I try to do is just to talk to people about air pollution, about how they can reduce their exposure to indoor and outdoor air pollution. So we can talk about indoor air pollution as well, because we spend most of our time indoors. Things like opening a window if you have a gas stove, ventilating your house, tackling mold and damp, not burning anything, wood burners, candles, anything that you burn inside causes air pollution. So just making sure people know about that and just make your friends and family aware. Like, my family don't put the fire on at Christmas anymore, which is a bit sad, isn't it? But actually it's better because we don't cough and things, and it's much cleaner. So and then there's the outdoor air pollution, walking through green spaces, side roads, all of these things, they sound minor, and we can't mitigate 100% of the air pollution that we're exposed to, but we can definitely try and make some effort. And I know that Ella Kitty, Deborah's mum, when she talks, said that if she'd known about the risk to Ella, she would have taken more action to try and protect her from the air pollution. So it's really important to just let people know about that. As we talked about, it's a health inequalities issue. Whilst there has been improvements are not as good in areas where there's more deprivation, and people from minority ethnic backgrounds are more likely to be exposed to air pollution. So it's a major health issue, but actually any policies that can improve air pollution also have co-benefits of improving health, like improving green spaces. This actually provides us with oxygen and shade, and in the heat waves, it's much cooler when you have more greenery. It reduces stress, it improves socializing. So green spaces are win-win on multiple fronts, as is active travel, because it's better for our health to do active travel, as well as reducing air pollution. So lots of wins. So I think that's me done. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the rest of the bank holiday.
Thank you so much, Veena. It's really important, isn't it, for us to listen to the scientists and medical experts and to keep promoting the message. Next, we have Rika Frischling from Balham Climate Action. Rika.
Hi everyone, I'm Rika. I'm part of Balham Climate Action, a local action group based in Tooting, Balham, all the surrounding areas. Obviously, thank you very much to Axtell Wandsworth for inviting us to come and speak here today. I can only echo what everyone else here has said already. It's so important to come together as citizens, but also as communities. So that's why events like these are so special to us. Because I have such a great variety of speakers here, like a array of different causes where we all come together for things that really matter. The fighting for better and safer cycling routes is important, as is educating people on how to be more sustainable, putting pressure on the government and big companies to do more to mitigate the climate crisis, and standing up for marginalized communities, especially those most affected by the effects of climate change. I think it's important to highlight the importance of climate justice. There are so many struggles that are all interconnected, and that includes the constant battle against racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and transphobia. We want to fight for a planet that is safe and just for everyone, both for ourselves and for all the generations to come. When we come together as people, we can create change. I'm here to say you don't have to be a scientist, a politician, or a full-time activist to make a difference in the world. When I joined Balham Climate Action a few years ago, I had never done any work like this. I still just do it outside my normal work. And sometimes the work has looked like raising awareness on the street, lobbying your local MP. On other days, like today, it's just coming together and supporting other groups doing really good work. As climate activist Tomea Gregory said, there's a role for everyone in the climate movement, whether that be the tea maker, the photographer, the live tweeter, anyone can do something. Anyone here lives in or around Balham or Tooting and would just love to join a group that provides space for optimism, craftivism, campaigning, sometimes also a space for a place to vent and express your anger and the feeling of doom that we sometimes all feel. Yeah, come and have a chat with us afterwards. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rika. And our final speaker this afternoon, is Maurice Mcleod, anti-racism activist, probably known to many of you, social commentator, CEO of community development organisation Olmec, and local councillor of Battersea Park Ward. Maurice.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for that, and thank you to XR Wandsworth for inviting me. As just been stated, a serving councillor. I'm actually a serving Labour councillor, but I'm not really going to be talking about that today because that's quite tentative. I'm not sure how long that will still be the case. So I want to talk as a human being who's lived his whole life here in Wandsworth. I grew up in council housing on the 20th floor of Surrey Lane in Battersea. We had no outdoor space, and so the parks and communal spaces were a real lifeline for us. I think sometimes people forget that if you live somewhere quite leafy, or if you can get out of London to whatever, you forget that there are people like me, like the communities I come from, that literally live in concrete. So the parks meant so much to us, and they still do mean so much to me. In the 70s and 80s, my mates and I would walk to school, because school runs were just for rich kids back then. We'd play in concrete courtyards and car parks, because playgrounds that existed were often run down or broken. We'd ride our bikes down roads choked with traffic, because cycle lanes weren't really a thing back then. Like many of my peers, I've suffered asthma since my youth. We've heard from the experts, so I don't really need to go into that, but MedAct, who are a health justice charity, found that around half of households they surveyed in social housing have at least one member who has a respiratory issue. So it's not, I always just thought, oh, I've just got bad lungs, and everyone I know has just got bad lungs. I've gone off this now. Living in a traffic-filled canopy as we do, has that effect on us. So it's not just obviously down to traffic pollution. It's poor quality housing, overcrowding. Those also play a significant role. But we can't deny that the environment we were forced to live in, and when I say we, I mean poor communities. I mean communities of colour that live in our cities. The communities that we're forced to live in, weren't fit for human habitation. I remember coughing exhaust fumes from SUVs as they roared past, threatening our lungs and fracturing our communities, accelerating the climate crisis. This isn't just environmental harm, it's social injustice, hitting hardest folk, like me, who rely on public housing, public transport, affordable ways of getting around. Have more nimble fingers. We're here because climate change is about so much more than carbon numbers. It's about who bears the burden. And right now, climate emergencies stack on top of systemic racism, class inequality, austerity-driven neglect as another weight that London's black and working class communities carry. My anti-racism isn't just about challenging individual prejudice. It means fighting structural change, fighting for structural change. It means demanding our council, our nation, our global systems prioritise clean air, safe streets and green spaces, not just as luxuries, but as rights. I'm getting sweaty. XR Wandsworth's Wake Up Wandsworth campaign demands not just climate action, but climate justice. And I'm going to stop, pause for a bit. So I will probably get some criticism for being in Labour and being here in a campaign that might be seen as being critical of the council. I don't actually see it as that. I see the pressure that comes from groups like XR Wandsworth making us councillors do the right thing. I think it's I don't want to get into the political side of things, but Wandsworth isn't quite like Southwark and Lambeth. We're not left voting council. It's 50-50. And as much as we believe that we want a car-free air, there's a massive campaign of people that don't want that. So the work of XR and other groups is really important, even if sometimes maybe it's not welcomed that much by individual councillors. It's really important to put that pressure on us so that we can go, oh, it's not just the car lobby. There's actual people that live in our communities that want to breathe. The community I grew up in taught me, and still live in, taught me that public collective infrastructure and redistribution are key. Safe cycling infrastructure, car-free streets, green public spaces should not be for the I think I've said this already, haven't I? You know, it starts to feel familiar. I'll move on. I'll stop with this because it's not working. Just to say, the way that things change is by coming together. The way that, and we know that, and it doesn't. It can feel quite disheartening. I think there's a lot that's going on in the world that feels disheartening, that feels like, why are we doing this? And then I come to stuff like this, and I look around at comrades or people that have been with me on other really important campaigns, and that's what gives me the hope. That's what makes me go, oh, we will make a difference, and we will, and just not allowing the negativity to sweep over us. So this sort of thing is super important. We need to get our roads safe so that we can just walk and breathe and be human beings again. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your honesty and for the inspiration. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our speakers for this rally. Thank you all so much for coming out this morning, and to our amazing stewards who've helped keep us all in line throughout the morning. And particularly, can I just say thank you to Caroline and Ben, and also to Nina, who can't be here, for working so hard to make this happen. Especially as, you know, with supreme irony, an extreme weather event actually stopped us in our tracks a few weeks ago. You know, couldn't make it up, could you? Okay, so if you feel it's important to get involved, or just to share your feelings about today, do follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or find our website at www.wandsworth.earth to get more involved. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you.